Many of our viewers, many of our clients have been telling me my country has become unrecognizable. They're looking for plan Bs in record numbers, and now one key media figure is saying the same. America is unrecognizable. Hi, I'm Andrew Henderson. This is Nomad Capitalist, where we help 7- and 8-figure entrepreneurs and investors legally go where you're treated best. Now, I haven't been in the United States for a number of years now, and even the last time I was there, it was only about for a week. And so when I hear people telling me that their country is unrecognizable, I read about in the news. I've been talking about how this is coming. I wanted to leave the country. I didn't feel comfortable there for a long time. People are now beginning to share my realization. But I don't take any great pleasure in this because it's sad to watch a country that you grew up in, that many people are living in, become what some are saying is unrecognizable. And a lot of people are looking for plan Bs as a result. So I have not seen this myself. I have to listen to you, and I always love hearing your comments on why you believe that not just the United States, other countries are becoming unrecognizable. And we are going to start to see the veneer stripping off of many countries that haven't offered a lot in a long time, haven't offered at least nearly as much as you think they did. And now people are saying that is finally coming home to roost. People are at each other's throats. Here's the headline from RealClearPolitics.com. Brian Williams quits TV. He says America in 2021 is unrecognizable. Brian Williams has been on TV for a long time. I was watching Brian Williams on MSNBC way back in the mid-90s when they started, and here we are 25 years later. He's back on MSNBC. He is leaving, and the article says, longtime NBC News broadcaster Brian Williams issued a strange warning Thursday as he retired from his 11 p.m. MSNBC show. The reality is, though, this is the quote, I will wake up tomorrow in the America of the year 2021, a nation unrecognizable to those who came before us and fought to protect it, which is what you must do now, Williams said. They've decided to burn it all down with us inside. That should scare you to no end as much as it scares an aging volunteer fireman. And that's what he said. And then it kind of goes on to this kind of transcript of the article. Or of the broadcast. Now, I don't agree necessarily with Brian Williams that you have to fight to protect it. I believe that when you have this, when it comes to the point when people in the media, okay, the mainstream media, are saying the country's unrecognizable. By the way, it's not just the United States people are saying this about. People are saying this all over the world. But when it comes to that point, the idea that what are you going to do to fight? We've talked about this from day one of Nomad Capitalist. And are you going to go and fight at the ballot box? It's not going to work because the momentum's against you. More and more people are joining the bandwagon. They want people like Elon Musk to pay more tax, even though he'll pay more tax than practically anybody in U.S. history. They want to demonize success. They want to demonize small business. More and more entitlement. Give us more stuff. Why should we work? I mean, it's just the general trend. Whatever cultural trends that you want to talk about, we talk about the ones that are more financial, but certainly lifestyle trends. Life is becoming less free in many Western countries, has been for many years. The lifestyle is not as good. You know, one of the things that I believe in, go where you're treated best, we don't talk about it that much, but I believe in peace. You come and talk to my team, especially our team leaders. They know that's a word I use a lot. We want peace. We want calm. And if you don't have that in your life, then you have not entirely gone where you're treated best. From everything I can ascertain, everything I read, Brian Williams, people I talk to, you don't have that in the Western world. Now, perhaps you can go out and live in the middle of nowhere. You can do that anywhere, by the way. You're still going to pay high taxes. You're still going to have the potential risks of living in a country that might decide to take your passport, or who knows what they could do. But you could live in the middle of nowhere, anywhere, and be left alone. But if you're going to stay in your country, in a country that's become unrecognizable, how are you going to fight that? Obviously, we do not promote any kind of violence here. I see different things happening around the world. People are getting arrested for threatening violence or plotting. But listen, that's not the answer. Why do you want to do that? Why would you want to risk your life? Why would you want to be so unhappy? I don't understand if go where you're treated best is about having a peaceful, happy life. What's the point? Brian Williams is now saying it. Others are saying it. They've decided to burn it all down with us inside. And, he goes on and on and on. Every weeknight for decades now, he says, he's produced the same version of the same program. But it's changing. He says the times have changed. And no doubt, listen, in 1996 when MSNBC was coming on the air, I was probably beginning to, if not then, shortly soon thereafter, sit at the dining room table with my father. And he would come back and read the most free economies in the world. Oh, listen, Hong Kong's doing great this year, but we're still holding up pretty well. The U.S. has changed. Many Western countries have changed. And again, you think back in 1996 or 1997 or 1998, anybody would talk about Georgia as a bastion of economic freedom with low taxes and everything? Of course not. The world has changed. The Georgias of the world, many of the other countries we talk about, have become unrecognizable in a good way. I mean, my goodness, you could go and buy an apartment there in the center of the city for $5,000 or $10,000 back then, probably. I met a guy who lived in Tbilisi in 2002, and he said, "Oh my goodness, what a disaster it was." And that's not the case today, and it's just one example. So we don't believe in fighting. Now, if you want to stay and you believe, hey, listen, I live in a place where people share my values, and it's recognizable enough, that's fine. Certainly, I think that watching less news, participating in less politics probably makes you happier. Again, listen, I will be honest. There are people in this audience who like being miserable, and I see it all the time. There are people who write us at help@nomadcapitalist.com. You can just tell these people like being miserable. And, if you're trying to be our client, we don't take miserable people. I'm trying to help people solve their problems. That includes regaining a sense of happiness that I gained to a certain extent when I left the U.S. and that the sense of peace that I enhanced when I totally cut the cord with the U.S. I don't want to identify with an unrecognizable country. If you believe that personal freedom is in decline, find a place where personal freedom exists. If you believe that your taxes are going up, hear from a lot of people, hey, they're going to raise their taxes. Well, there are places where you can go where they're probably not going to raise your taxes, or taxes are already really low, or they're zero. And so even if they raise them a little bit, right? I mean, people say, hey, what if Dubai institutes an income tax? What if the UAE institutes an income tax one of these days? I don't necessarily see that on the horizon for the kind of people watching our channel. But look at what happened in, for example, Andorra. They went from 0 to 10 or 0 to 5 in some cases, I think. And so, listen, don't know too many other places where you can pay 10% on your income and still have some exceptions, right? So if that's your concern, find a place. If you're concerned that your neighbors are at each other's throats, that there is just this fog in the air that's unpleasant, then find a place where that doesn't exist. And I can tell you that does. Every time I go on the news, and I do this because I want things to talk about with you. I go on the news, I see stuff where entrepreneurs and business owners are just being skewered every day. There are so many more platforms coming out to speak truth to power. Listen, just because you're broke doesn't mean that you're right. And yet that's the mindset in many Western countries. And you know what where I see a lot less of that? Now, granted, I don't get myself as much into the soup. But I go to Eastern Europe. I come here to Colombia. I go to Southeast Asia. I just don't see it as much. I really don't. Now, again, part of it is I purposely black some of it out, which you can do as well. You can go overseas and you can say, you know what? I'm not used to reading the newspaper in Thailand, so I'm just going to stay away from it. I'm just going to kind of live in my own community. And there's a sort of ignorance is bliss. But, to the extent that I am aware of what's going on and I talk to local people, there's not the negativity. Certainly there's a lot of stress right now in the world in the last couple of years, but it's really not to the same extent. And when people say, well, there's nowhere else to go where it will be recognizable, I push back because I can tell you, whether it's how you're treated at the security line at the airport, whether it's how you're treated at immigration, whether it's how you're treated on the streets, whatever it may be, you can find places that have more freedom. Certainly, very, very practically, you can find places that have less tax. I don't understand this issue of, if the country's unrecognizable, if you want to stay in the country and you just want to make it work, I'm all for it. I think you should have a plan B because what I hear from every single person practically is it's getting worse and we fear what's going to happen next. And so if you can afford it, have a second citizenship. have a home in another country. Maybe you put the two together, have a residence permit. 3 things I think that people should do. And they might be in entirely different countries, but you want to be prepared. Obviously, that's what we talk about here on the channel. But if your country's unrecognizable and you are struggling with that, don't just stay and wait for it to get worse, because just like an alcoholic, you have to hit rock bottom before things get better. I don't know how this ship turns around and people just go back to magically saying, we love each other and we're all in agreement and it's kumbaya again. That hasn't existed in the United States, really, I don't think, since right after or even before I was born. Is that just going to change on a dime? I don't think so. I think you need the kind of change you saw in a country like Georgia where things changed dramatically. You need the kind of change they had in Singapore or in post-war Japan or whatever the case may be. You need something shocking. And I think that so many people look at a country like the US as a legacy brand where things are still good enough. I'll leave when things get bad enough. You say it's unrecognizable, but people don't do anything about it. I think things only get worse, and that's why if you're going to stay, the plan B is so important. If you want to totally solve the problem, find somewhere where you can find recognizable. I promise it exists. Don't stop now. We've got well over 1,000 more videos here on YouTube for you to watch and learn how to go where you're treated best. And if you want to work with Nomad Capitalist personally, go to nomadcapitalist.com/apply, learn about our unique, tried and true process, garnered over years of experience, and learn how you can become our client.